So continuing from where we stopped, we have, sorry. So continuing from where we stopped, we have specified the two properties for our button. The best one is the on click, which is now button click, and the second one is props.title, which is the name of the actual button, like what will be inside the button when we create it. So after creating these two properties, we can now start with the actual functionality. So what we're trying to do now is figure out a way that when we click on, sorry, okay, that when we click on the button, the show modal button, the modal pops up. So how we can do this is by, okay, what we're trying to do now is figure out a way that we can click a button and the modal pops up, like it renders the modal. So first of all, let's do this. Let's comment the modal, and because of this has not been created, I'm not going to delete them. I'm just going to comment out this part so that the code runs. So now what we're seeing is a white screen. Okay, I'm just going to remove this button click for now. Just going to remove it so that we can see what we're working with. So as you can see, we have a modal that says remove modal, and the other one says show modal. So when we come back here, what we're trying to figure out is how are we going to how we're going to do it in such a way that when we click our button, it shows the modal or not. So that's what we're trying to figure out. So for now, what we want to do is when we click on this button, the modal pops up, and when we click on the remove button, it goes down. So how we're going to do that is through the use of states. So what we're going to do is inside this app.js, we're going to do something. First thing we're going to do is we're going to manage states, right? So we're going to create a constant, like I showed you in the previous video. Create a constant with an array inside, and inside this array we're going to do the two things. The first thing is I'm going to create a function called isVisible. Sorry, a variable, a constant called isVisible, and a function called set isVisible. So isVisible is going to be a boolean, meaning it's either going to be true or false. So we're going to equate it to use states, right? And inside here we're going to write false for now. Right, so what this basically is you can think about it or think of it as a key, meaning that false now we don't have the key, but when we have the key we'll change it to true, right? And this is false for now, meaning it's not visible. So now how we can conditionally render the modal is like this. What we can now do right here is we can create an if. So we can create an if and is visible. That means if is visible is equals true, right? If invisible is equals to true, we can then return the modal. But as you can see, we have a lot of errors here. So there's a better way to do this. Instead of using if is visible is equals to true, you can use something called a template literal. Sorry, not a template literal, a iteration expression. And the way we do that, you can just write is visible, right? Question mark. Then if it's visible, then now create the modal. right? Else return nothing. So no. So what this is going to do is checking if this is visible stuff is, if this is visible constant is true. If it's true, return this modal. If it's not true, return nothing. So right now, since it is false, the modal is not going to be there, so there's going to be nothing there. But if we change this false to true, so now it's visible, it's true. And if we change it now, the modal is there. So now all that is left for us is to find a way to use the button to do that automatically without us actually typing it. So how we do that is this. We go to our button for show modal, right? And we create this button click. We add it as an attribute here. So it's now be bu button click. And button click here is now going to be equal to what? I'm going to call it show handler. Show handler. And right below here, I'm going to create a show handler function. So right here is going to be what? Show. So it's going to be const show handler, right? Is equals to an anonymous function. That is a function without a name. It's going to be equal to an anonymous function. All we're going to do here is we're going to set is visible. We're going to set is visible to what? It's true. It's that simple. So what this does is that when we click on the button, and the button has an attribute called button click, and this button click is actually the on click. Yeah, so we have this on click props of button click, then comes here, the prop of button click is now what? The show handler function. And all the show handler function does is that it calls set is visible and changes is visible to true. So now if we check our code, if we go to our browser, let us refresh to be sure. Once it's refreshed, once we click on the show handler, show modal, it shows. Again, we refresh it, we click on the show modal, the modal pops up. So all we have to now figure out is how to remove the modal. So to remove the modal now, we go to where? We go to the modal.js, which is here. Right? So we go to the modal.js. And this modal.js has to have a property here, and this property is what? Button click. Button click, right? And this button click can be equated to something which is props dot button click. So what I'm doing here is that, so I just want to pull up the button, which is this button.js. So pulled up the button.js. I want to bring it side by side. Okay, it's already there. So this modal, let me bring it side by side. So what I'm now doing is that this button has a property called button click. So this button has a property called button click, right? And this button click is passed here where the button is rendered. We now have button click here. So instead of calling the function here, I now want to pass it down again to here. So now this button is inside this modal. So it's this modal that now owns this property called button click. So if I now go to this app.js, I go to where the modal is. It now has a button, also has a button click. And this button click can now be what? Hide, or rather remove modal. Remove modal handler. So this remove modal handler. I can create it here as a function. I can create it as a function.
Llama.
Mommy, I'm doing something. I can create it as a function, and I can call it what? The remove. Can I call it remove handler? Since it's going to be removing it, so I can call it the remove handler. Equate it to a function, and this function, all it's going to do is call set is visible back to false. So what I basically did is that this button has a property, and the property of this button has two properties. It has a props of title and has a props of button click. The first place this button is used as a raw button, which is here, button click show handler. Then you now have this show handler function. The second place this button click is used is inside the modal, but instead of creating like just putting a function here, and now pass it as a property again. So now this button click is now passed as a property of the modal, and the modal is therefore now passed to the app.js as another word button click, but this time the button click is for the modal. So this button click now has a function which is remove handler that set is visible back to false. So it set is visible is first false, then if you click on it, sets it to true, then it sets it to false. But now instead of writing this true, false, or whatever, I can just write set is visible to what not is visible. So meaning that if it is true, like if at first it's false, then when you click the button it now turns to true. So when it's not true, at this point it's not turning back to false. You can leave it as true as false or false if you want, but I think it's better this way. So if you go to your app, refresh, first of all there's no modal, you click on the button, there's a modal, you click on the button, modal removes. This is how it works. So another thing I want to do is be able to click outside the button and the modal also removes. So how do I do that? Through props. So I can go back to my app, to my code, right, and go to my modal, and on this div called the backdrop div, I can give it an onClick. So onClick can also be used for any other element, it must not be a button. So it's not going to be a props dot. Also, this one is going to be props dot button click, but it's basically doing the same thing. So I can go here, right, go to my app.js. Then since it already has a button click remove handler, you don't need to create another one. Then you can just go to your code, refresh to make sure everything is alright. Click on show modal, then if you click on outside it will work. So because this stuff now has the backdrop, this black stuff that is almost transparent, also has an event list and onClick. So when you click on it, it also fires the remove handler function as seen here. So what I did now is that there are two properties. There's an onClick on the button as shown, then inside the modal there are also two properties. There's onClick here for the button, sorry, for the backdrop, that black stuff. Then there's also another one for the button, and all of them is for the button click. So in the app.js you don't need to create two button clicks, just create one, and so handle it for both of them. So regardless of where you click, either you click on this button remove handler or you click on the body, it will still remove regardless. So that's how you build a simple modal.